The Cleveland Browns just made a move that has every front office in the NFL paying close attention, and the critics who spent months writing off Shedeur Sanders are now scrambling to explain themselves. Andrew Berry didn't stumble into this decision. He planned it, executed it, and in doing so, he sent a message to every team in the league that Cleveland is no longer rebuilding, they are building, and they know exactly what they are building around. The potential signing of Shiloh Sanders, Shedeur's brother and a proven defensive player in his own right, is not a sentimental storyline. It is a calculated football decision, and the ripple effects of it are already being felt across the league. To understand why this move matters so much, you have to understand what Shedeur Sanders walked into when he arrived in Cleveland, because it was not a welcoming environment by any measure. The old regime had no real conviction about him. There were whispers from inside the building that plays which should have gone through him were redirected. The offensive system was not constructed to maximize his strengths, it was built around hesitation, around uncertainty, and around people who never fully committed to the idea that Shedeur Sanders was the franchise's answer at quarterback. Every time he showed flashes of genuine brilliance, something pulled the momentum back, a questionable play call here, a structural mismatch there. The environment was working against him before he even had a chance to work for himself. But what the critics always missed, and what the film made obvious to anyone watching closely, was that Shedeur Sanders never folded under that weight. He kept his head down, kept refining his game, and let his talent speak through the noise. His pocket presence, his speed of processing, his fearlessness against pressure, none of that disappeared just because the system around him was fractured. The fans who watched every snap could see it. The coaches who evaluated the tape could see it. And eventually, the front office made the decision that changed the entire trajectory of this franchise. They moved on from Stefanski, reset the coaching staff, and brought in Todd Monken. From the moment Todd Monken arrived in Cleveland, the tone changed completely. He is not here to manage a quarterback through a system. He is here to build a system around a quarterback, and that quarterback is Shedeur Sanders. Every offensive scheme Monken puts together, every personnel grouping he assembles, every free agent acquisition the Browns make on that side of the ball, it is all being filtered through one question: does this make Shedeur Sanders better? That is a fundamentally different philosophy than anything Cleveland has operated under in recent memory, and it is already producing results in the way the locker room is energized and the way the offense is being constructed. When a head coach commits fully to his quarterback, the entire organization feels it. Players buy in faster. Trust builds quicker. And the quarterback himself is liberated to play with confidence rather than looking over his shoulder every time a drive stalls. Shedeur Sanders now has that freedom in Cleveland. And Andrew Berry is taking it one step further by potentially adding the one person in the world who knows Shedeur better than any teammate ever could, his own brother, Shiloh Sanders. This is where the move becomes genuinely fascinating from a football standpoint, because a lot of people are hearing the last name and dismissing the resume. That is a serious mistake. Shiloh Sanders started his college career at South Carolina, one of the biggest stages in college football, and even in a limited role across 13 games, he recorded over 30 tackles. That was just the beginning. He then transferred to Jackson State to play under his father, Coach Prime, DYNASTY Sanders, and the environment there was anything but comfortable. High expectations, zero tolerance for excuses, championship-level intensity every single day. That pressure turned Shiloh into a different kind of player. He recorded 4 interceptions in a single season at Jackson State, 4. He was breaking up passes, reading quarterback intentions, and anticipating route combinations the way veterans do. He earned second-team All-SWAC honors, and those numbers were not manufactured against weak competition. That was production. Then came Colorado. When DYNASTY Sanders took his system to the Power 5 level, Shiloh rose to meet the moment rather than shrink from it. In 2023, he led the entire Colorado roster in tackles with 70 total tackles, not just defensive backs, not just linebackers, but the entire team. He was the leading tackler on the whole squad. He also delivered one of the most electric individual plays of the college football season that year, recording an 80-yard interception return for a touchdown that demonstrated not just athleticism but instinct and awareness at the highest level he had played. These are not statistics manufactured by narrative. These are verified production numbers from a player who performed when the lights were brightest. Now place that player inside the Cleveland Browns defensive scheme and think about what it means beyond the individual stats. Picture Shedeur Sanders walking into the facility every morning knowing that his brother, someone who has shared every high-pressure moment with him since childhood, someone who understands the weight of the Sanders name and what it demands, is in that same building, on that same team, grinding through the same schedule. That kind of psychological foundation is not something you can create with a veteran free agent signing or a motivational speech. It is either there or it is not. With Shiloh, it is already there. And this is exactly where Andrew Berry's calculation becomes clear, because this is not a feel-good family story being dressed up as a roster move. This is a ruthless, forward-thinking football decision. Shedeur Sanders is at his best when the environment around him is stable, when trust in his teammates is already established, and when the communication channels are open without needing weeks of camp to develop them. Shiloh Sanders does not need an orientation period. That relationship has been forged over a lifetime. The shorthand is already there. The understanding of how the other one thinks, what the other one needs in difficult moments, what it looks like when the other one is locked in, all of it exists without a single practice snap needing to happen first. You cannot buy that in free agency. You cannot coach it into existence. It is a natural competitive advantage, and Berry recognized it. Beyond the chemistry element, the football math is straightforward. A player who led his team in tackles, who has 4 college interceptions on his record, and who has performed under the most intense coaching environment in college football is not just a locker room addition. Every snap Shiloh makes on defense, every tackle that stops a drive, every pass breakup that forces a punt, every interception that hands the ball back to the offense, creates more opportunities for Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland offense. That is how defense and offense compound each other over the course of a season. The two sides of the ball are not separate departments. They feed each other. And if Shiloh is bringing the kind of defensive energy his college career demonstrated, the entire team benefits. The critics are painfully aware of all of this, and that is precisely why the panic is real. These are media figures and commentators who spent months constructing narratives around Shedeur Sanders failing in Cleveland. They amplified every incomplete pass, looped every tough loss, and built entire platforms on the premise that the Browns had made a mistake by committing to him. Now they are watching Andrew Berry and Todd Monken move in the complete opposite direction with total conviction, installing a coach built around Shedeur's strengths, adding weapons designed for his offense, and potentially bringing in Shiloh to reinforce the defense and the locker room simultaneously. Every one of those moves is a direct contradiction of everything the critics predicted. That is not a minor miscalculation on their part. That is a public, documented reversal of their entire argument, and they know it. The irony is that the louder the criticism gets, the more attention it draws to what the Browns are actually doing. Cleveland is winning the narrative war alongside the roster construction war, and the critics are helping them do it without realizing it. Every panic take about the Sanders brothers being overhyped only drives more eyes toward a franchise that is quietly putting together one of the more intriguing roster blueprints in the AFC. Zooming out to 2026 and beyond, the picture becomes even clearer. The Browns now have a young quarterback surrounded by a coaching staff fully committed to his development, a defense that could feature a player with a built-in competitive and personal connection to that quarterback, and a front office that has stopped chasing short-term fixes and started building toward something sustainable. Other teams in the AFC are going to have to take that seriously. If Shedeur Sanders gets the right protection, the right weapons, and the right environment, all of which are currently being constructed around him, the ceiling on this offense is not simply high. It is genuinely difficult to calculate. The questions about whether Cleveland should be looking at veteran quarterbacks or returning to the draft are questions that misread the situation entirely. The Browns already have their quarterback. They spent the last year figuring out the structure to support him. Now they are building that structure aggressively. The compounding effect of having Shiloh Sanders in that building every day, whether he is starting, rotating into the defense, or simply present during the film sessions and early morning practices, extends well beyond any individual game stat. Family does not clock in on game day and clock out afterward. Family is there in the moments when confidence wavers, when the film shows something difficult, when the week is long and the pressure is high. That presence is a competitive advantage, and teams that have built genuine chemistry at the core of their roster, not manufactured chemistry through off-season events, but real, foundational trust, consistently outperform their projected ceiling. Think about what Sunday afternoons look like if this all comes together. Shedeur Sanders under center, processing the defense at speed, distributing the ball with precision, and creating plays in situations where other quarterbacks shut down. His quick-twitch decision-making and pocket mobility have already shown up on tape. And then on the other side of the ball, Shiloh Sanders reading the opposing offense before the snap, closing on routes with instinct-level speed, disrupting timing, and turning possessions in Cleveland's favor. Opponents will not be able to game plan for one Sanders. They will have to account for both. That is a tactical problem that does not go away with scheme adjustments. It is a personnel problem, and it sits on the Browns' schedule for all 17 games in 2026. The NFL has seen brother combinations on the same roster before. But it has not seen this level of individual production from both players, this level of organizational commitment behind them, this level of coaching infrastructure designed specifically to maximize what they bring. This combination is genuinely unprecedented in terms of the surrounding context, and the teams on Cleveland's schedule are beginning to understand that. Andrew Berry did not make a sentimental call. He made a smart one. Shiloh Sanders brings real, verified football value from multiple levels of college competition, and the relationship with Shedeur is a compounding asset that no contract negotiation elsewhere could replicate. Todd Monken has his quarterback, he has his system, and now the Cleveland Browns have a direction that is visible, coherent, and aggressive. The critics will keep generating content around doubt because that is the brand they built. But the roster moves do not lie, and the moves are pointing in one direction, toward a Cleveland Browns team that is done being an afterthought in the AFC. If you have been following the Shedeur Sanders story from the beginning, you already know how much this moment matters. If you are just catching up, this is the time to get locked in, because the moves are accelerating and this story is nowhere near its peak. Hit that like button right now if you believe in what the Browns are building, and make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss a single update as this roster comes together. Every move Berry makes from here is going to matter, and you need to be here when it drops.